OFPG Voices is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Board&Dice designs and publishes family and strategy board games. Two of their most recent releases are Tlacuaches and Terracotta Army. They have recently launched their ally program to lend support to underrepresented voices in the hobby. World Series of Board Gaming in Las Vegas, September 24th to the 28th. It has 16 different games to compete in, an open gaming library, and a grand prize of $25,000. So there's something for you if you're a casual gamer or a competitive one. For tickets, check out WSBGVegas.com. Use referral code OFPG23 for a $40 discount off the Stay and Play or Quadruple Ring event packages. Hi everybody, I'm Starla.
I'm Nick.
And we are
Our Fan Plays Games. Voices, yeah.
And welcome back to another episode of OFPG Voices.
Gonna listen to good voices. Oh yeah, I'm ready,
Yes.
I'm ready.
Now this week, we've got 3 awesome voices.
Yes, we do.
And we're gonna kick this off with Designer's Corner with Marcus Ross.
Oh, here we go.
And he's gonna talk a little bit about how you design cards for your game.
Okay, okay, all right, let's do that.
And then next up, we're gonna have School by Groove.
Here we go.
With Dr. Tanya Pobuda. And she's gonna discuss board game rule books and their lack of inclusivity.
Oh.
But then she also acknowledges those publishers who do a great job with inclusivity and representation.
All right. She dropping that mic again. Here we go.
And last but not least, we have Daniel from Tlacuaches En La Mesa. And this month, he's going to discuss a game called Myth. Mythe.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm excited to look at that. I want to see that.
So that's what we have in store for this episode.
Okay, all right. Before we get to all that good stuff, let's listen to Starla and her Good Human segment.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another segment of Good Humans. Now, this week, we're going to talk about habits. Since we're at the beginning of the year, now is the best time to change some bad habits and adopt some good new ones. Now, what is a habit? A habit is a settled or regular practice or behavior that is hard to give up. Sometimes a habit sneaks up on us, and before we know it, it has become a daily practice or an adopted behavior. Now, some habits are good, such as brushing your teeth every morning, but then there are some habits that are bad, such as picking your nose or biting your fingernails. Whatever habits you've adopted, if they are not good, productive, or beneficial, now is the time to let them go and develop some new ones that are good. Adopt habits that improve your life and the lives of others. Make it a habit to treat service workers better, like be patient when they are providing a service. Make it a habit to smile at someone every day. Make it a habit to add physical activity to your week. Make it a habit to have weekly family time. And when playing games, make it a habit to be an humble winner or a gracious loser. In other words, adopt those habits that will bring more joy to your life and, if possible, improve the lives of others. So that's all I have to say about habits this week. I hope you'll look into the habits that you have right now, and if they're bad, get rid of them. And try to put some new habits that's going to make your life better. And as we always say here at OFPG Voices, our goal is to make this world a better place, one board gamer at a time.
Hello everyone, this is Marcus Ross with Waterbear Games with more practical game design tips you can use to improve your prototypes. This time I'm focusing on card design and what choices were made in published games that you should absolutely steal when you're making your cards. I'm going to start with some general theory and move into how the experience of playing a game is shaped by the graphic design, card shapes, and sizes, with some real examples along the way. Plus we're going to run some blank cards for your amusement. So let's get started. Cards are incredibly versatile tools in your arsenal. They're cheap and can hold a lot of game data while reinforcing the theme with immersive artwork. Functionally, I think of cards the same way I do traffic signals. They have a very specific audience and convey information to that audience in as clear a way as possible and then get out of the way. Practically, that has a few effects. In most games, players select a single card to play from a hand of cards. That card is usually chosen by the player who who the hand belongs to at a distance from about a foot from their eyes and from cards held in the fan. I refer to the upper left corner of cards like this as their information triangle. If your game works this way, the information triangle is the most important part of these cards. You can see the triangles in the shaded areas of the cards I'm marking here. The most crucial card selection criteria should go here. So let's go basic. Consider Uno. Every card played from a player hand to the table, and information in the corner of the card is the same as information in the center. The center of the card has a much larger graphic depicting the card's number or ability. The audience for the card is everyone at the table. Given the shape of common game tables, that card is typically 2 to 3 feet from a player that needs to know what it is, so that graphic needs to be as large as it can get. That part's making card accessible to their audience, and another way to do that is consistent colors alongside unique icons to clarify card types. You can see this used in a game like Sushi Go. For instance, all the red cards are Maki rolls, all the nigiri have yellow backgrounds. The cards my opponent is playing is important for my decision making, so I have to be able to discern what they played at a glance. So when possible, use colors and icons that are matched with one another, and that are different enough that colorblind players can see what they are. You also notice the cards are a bit narrow in this game to accommodate the fact that the players will have quite a lot of cards on their table at the end of the round. How big your cards need to be to function on their own terms and fill the table is a key consideration. For instance, Space Base has very narrow cards because each player has at least a dozen cards showing in full and several stacks of partial cards. Plus there's a market for buying more cards and an additional sideboard for victory points. If the cards are any larger, the game wouldn't fit on a typical table. Additionally, the cards are cleverly designed. The color and position of the cards is used in a way that visually calls out which cards are capable of being activated, and the effects are mostly iconized. For putting all these ideas together, let's talk about Seven Wonders. It's a drafting game where each players choose a card from their hand and then pass the rest to an opponent. The information triangle on every card shows the resources required to play it. This allows players to dismiss every card they can't play before considering which possible card to play. The type of each card is indicated by its color, and the effect of playing each card is shown in the upper center, always with large icons. That's because the audience for the card effect is your opponents. Your neighbors need to know which resources you have so they can borrow them, or how much military and science you have so they can respond in kind. The much less important info is smaller and out of the way. Other things to consider. Cards that have different core functions should be presented differently, even if they're the same shape. You can see that difference in the cards here from Century Spice Road. These are relatively large cards with lots of room for artwork and very little for game state. The cards players choose from a hand have their effect in their information triangle. The point cards are chosen face up from the same area during the same phase of the game, so are presented as cards of equal size and shape. But since they're immediately turned face down when claimed, there's no need to use the triangle, and the card's requirements are shown at the card's bottom instead. This visually separates the cards by function, and prevents players from mistaking a point card for an ability card. You can see this again in Star Realms, where the ships are differentiated from the bases and outposts by their orientation. They use the same icons and colors where appropriate, but the cards act differently in the game, but are consistent across types. So when I design cards, even for a first prototype, I make sure to grab several different ink colors and draw distinct shapes for telling similar cards apart. I vary my card sizes and orientation for truly different card types, and always consider the audience for each card, especially when it's not the player that owns it. And always respect the information triangle for your handheld cards, so now that you know the core rules, you can bend the other conventions. There's no reason cards have to be rectangular. Doctor is a dexterity game that uses very irregular card shapes. You perform surgery by removing cards of a chosen type from an unstable stack using tweezers. Even as unusual as that is, the game presents the key information in large graphics in the center of the cards because the point cards are chosen from the table and not from players' hands. Additionally, the color of each card is crucial. Since they can be obscured by quite a lot, the color is on the edge of the cards, so it's easy for you to see and pull out. It's great card design. Cards don't even need to be opaque. Custom Heroes uses clear cards. They don't even need to be flat on the table. Rhino Hero uses two types of cards. You've got roofs and walls, and you're building a card tower. The card tower walls are pure artwork. The windows just reinforce the idea you're building a tower. The roof tiles have their ability in the corner, so you can tell when you place one what effect it has. It's simple, effective, and delightful. Cards don't even need to be all that large if the graphics are sized appropriately for their audience. Here's a bunch of Pac-Man games. They're all cards and they're all tiny, but they get the job done because the games are small footprint and it's often for 2 players. I hope you enjoyed this quick overview of card design, and I'll see you next time for more practical game design tips.
This is Dr. Tanya Pobuda and Schooled by Gru, and today I'm going to be talking about New Year's resolutions, specifically around board game rulebooks. It's that time of year again, where we all set New Year's resolutions. Maybe it's to exercise more, meditate more, or eat more healthy foods. It's a great time to take stock and think about the things you want to change in your life. This episode, I'm going to be talking about something I want to see change in board game rulebooks. The topic of board game rulebooks often comes up on fora like BGG, and it's a topic of conversation a lot of people shared with me during my PhD dissertation research. They're really irked by board game rulebooks that always refer to players as he only. And here's a discussion forum that happened on Board Game Geek back in 2019 that kind of kicked off a research study that I did with my fabulous colleague, Dr. Shelley Jones. Questions like this one: why do so many games insist on having gendered pronouns in rulebooks? And this other one: my game group is not interested in learning a board game which uses only masculine pronouns. So I wanted to get the answer to that question, and as a result, I read 744 pages of board game rulebooks. Don't recommend that. Try not to do that at home. I'm sure you'll all do, though, if you love board games like I do. And I looked at 40 board game rulebooks in the top 40 of the Board Game Geek list at the time that I did the list extraction. 24 of 40 games were 5 years or newer. 53% of them were designed in the US and or by German designers. There were 27 publishers represented in that sample, and 11 of the 40 games got a perfect score in my grading rubric. What were some of the categories in my rubric where I was grading these rule books for inclusivity and representation? Well, one of the categories was references to he or she or they in the rule books. And what you can see here is I did a count, a very exhaustive count of references to he in this pool of the top 40 rule books, and discovered that 73.8% were references to he, often references to player as he. And the references to she were only 26.2%, so 392 references compared to 1,107 references to he. I was also looking for examples of any kind of representation in the rule books, looking at masculine images versus feminine images in the rule books to see how inclusive, how welcoming are some of these rule books to people who are not male identified. And what I found was only images of men. 29 of those rule books only included images of men or boys in the rule books at 72.5%. 11 of the games included any images of women at 27.5% of that sample. So much, much fewer images of women. And again, in this case, only 11 of those rule books included any images of women at all. I was also looking for things like playable characters. And in this case, we saw 16 of the games had any games with feminine presenting playable characters. In 15 of the games of that 40, that was not applicable. It was abstract or no gendered playable characters. So a little less than half of the sample had an abstraction or an abstract theme. In 7 of the games examples of that 40 that I looked at, there were masculine presenting characters only throughout the rulebook. I always like to focus on the positive, so I'm going to just share with you the games that got a perfect score for inclusivity and representation in their games. One of them was Gloomhaven, a great rule book with a lot of diversity in terms of representation and a lot of inclusion in terms of the references to playable characters and the genders of players. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was another great example that got a perfect score on the rubric that we used to categorize the games in terms of representation of multiple genders throughout, or use the singular they, which is a really good practice for board game rulebook writers. Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization got a perfect score. Gaia Project, Scythe, Arkham Horror Card Game, another great rulebook with lots of gender inclusion. Mechs vs. Minions, Roots, Azul, Spirit Island, and Wingspan. They all got perfect scores for inclusivity, and in Wingspan case, a really great case study of the use of a singular they and a really effective use of the declarative to basically say, here's what you do, and use the word you a lot. You will take your cards. So a really nice practice there. We're really, really proud of this study. Check it out on Analog Game Studies Journal site, and thanks so much for listening. This is Dr. Tanya Pobuda, and this has been Schooled by Gru. In keeping with this month's theme, New Resolutions, I'm hoping that when we write rulebooks, when we design games, representation and inclusion are at top of mind. It makes the whole experience a lot more fun and welcomes more people into this wonderful hobby. Thanks so much for listening.
Hola Tlacuaches, mi nombre es Daniel y bienvenidos a otro video aquí en Tlacuaches en la Mesa. Y obviamente un gran saludo a Our Family Plays Games. Ya que estamos empezando un año nuevo, quiero tomarme el tiempo para poder hablar sobre juegos de mesa que son pequeños. La razón es de que el año pasado estuve jugando juegos de mesa grandes. Eran juegos de mesa pesados, juegos que ni siquiera cabían en mi mesa de juegos de mesa. Por esa razón, vamos a hablar sobre juegos que se consideran de relleno. Hoy vamos a ver Might. Ahí les va. Might es un juego con una temática bastante interesante. En este juego eres un ratón y estás en busca de un queso dorado. Yo sé, suena bastante loco. En tu aventura vas a avanzar a través de este camino para que llegues a donde está este dragón, que es quien está protegiendo este queso. Cuando lo venzas, vas a poder reclamar el queso dorado y ahí es cuando tú vas a ser declarado el ganador en Might. Tlacuaches, una de las cosas que disfruto mucho de este juego es el tablero. Luce increíble de esta forma. Antes de que empieces a jugar, vas a tomar el mazo de cartas y vas a tomar las cartas que se necesiten para el número de jugadores que va a estar jugando el juego. Estas cartas tienen números en las esquinas que van desde el 0 hasta el número 3. Pero hay otras de esas cartas que son cartas de obstáculos, que son rojas y tienen este cráneo en la parte de aquí arriba. Estas cartas se van a revolver y cada jugador va a tener un número de cartas en sus manos. El propósito del juego es de que tú tomes a tu ratoncito desde la villa en la que viven y moverlo cada espacio hasta llegar hasta la parte de arriba para que tú puedas vencer al dragón y recolectar el queso de oro. Cada uno de estos espacios cuenta con un pequeño puntito, que es lo que te está pidiendo para que tú te puedas mover de espacio a otro. En tu turno vas a tomar las cartas que tienes en tu mano, pero no las vas a jugar. Las cartas que estás jugando son las cartas que tienen los otros jugadores. Vas a tomar una de estas cartas sin ver y la vas a revelar. Estas cartas indican el número de espacios que tienes que pagar de movimiento para moverte de espacio a espacio. Aquí en este punto tienes dos opciones. Tú puedes decidir detenerte y avanzar a tu ratoncito solamente los espacios que pudiste pagar. O puedes decidir tomar otra carta de otro jugador. Lo que va a estar pasando es de que te vas a estar arriesgando. Puedes seguir tomando cartas, pero existe la posibilidad de que tomes una de estas cartas. Cuando esto pasa, inmediatamente tu turno termina y ya no puedes avanzar en el tablero. Todos esos puntos que estabas recolectando se pierden automáticamente. Después de que hayas hecho todo eso, vas a tomar las cartas que se jugaron y las vas a repartir entre los jugadores. Todo esto va a estar pasando hasta que uno de ustedes llegue hasta el tope de esta montaña y puedas vencer al dragón. Para poder vencer al dragón necesitas tener en tu mano uno de los 3 artefactos legendarios que cuenta con el juego. ya sea el escudo, el hada o la espada. Necesitas uno de estos para poder vencer al dragón. Tlacuaches, una de las cosas que disfruto mucho de este juego es de que se juega súper rápido. Este juego es considerado como un juego de relleno y se juega de entre 15 a 20 minutos. Es un juego que siempre trato de traer a la mesa cuando he jugado un juego súper pesado, muy largo y necesito como que una pausa mental para poder empezar otro juego pesado después. Tlacuaches, ojalá se den la oportunidad de jugar Might. Bastante interesante el juego, muy bonito en la mesa y lo recomiendo mucho para un juego de relleno. Eso es todo y nos estamos viendo en el siguiente video, Tlacuaches. ¿Y ya?
All right, another great episode.
Another great episode.
Yes.
Marcus did his thing.
Yes, he did.
And you know, Dr. Pobuda, hey, she got some good points.
Always.
She always got good
Always.
points. You know,
Yes.
those rule books do need to change.
They do.
They do. They do. And Daniel, I got to check out that game.
It's interesting.
I gotta check it
With
out.
the mouse and cheese.
Yeah, I got to check that out. That's really interesting there. But that was good voices all the way through. I mean, that's why I love this show.
I do too.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
And we can't forget to thank our awesome sponsors,
Yes.
Board&Dice and the World Series of Board Games.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Now, Starla, what about our merch?
Well, if you'd like a t-shirt,
Yes.
or a cup,
Yes.
or a pillow for Our Family Plays Games,
Yes.
or OFPG Voices, check us out on Spring.
Now, Starla, our next episode is going to be February 8th, 2023, family, so definitely check it out. And also, Starla, where can they find us and tell everybody to come on and join into the family? Where can they find us?
Well, if you're looking for Our Family Plays Games or OFPG Voices,
Yes.
you can find us on Facebook,
Yep.
Instagram,
Yep.
Twitter,
Yep.
and right here on YouTube.
Right here. Family, thank you so much for coming out and looking at these beautiful voices again. And definitely check out our sponsors so they can keep on rolling and keep helping us out. But definitely keep with the questions, the comments. And family, there's one thing we want you to always know. We love you.
Bye, everybody.